Welcome to the deep dive. This is where you send us all that info, the articles, the forum threads, all those open tabs, and we boil it down for you fast.
Exactly. Think of it as your shortcut. You give us the deep dive material, we give you the key stuff, minus the hours of reading.
And today, we are jumping straight into a newly announced game called Silver Palace. You sent over a really interesting mix, didn't you?
Oh yeah, we've got Reddit threads, news articles from places like Blog TTT website, Online Station, Must Play, PR Newswire APAC, even a Geekon Hub forum chat, and some early buzz from TapTap, quite the collection.
So our mission today is basically to figure out what exactly Silver Palace is, why it's already making some noise, and what all these different sources you gathered tell us about its potential.
Right, let's get into it. What are we looking at here?
Okay, so first up, what is Silver Palace? Piecing it together from your sources, it looks like a fantasy adventure, kind of an open-world action RPG.
Developed by Silver Studio, published by Elementa, and the big headline, technically speaking, seems to be Unreal Engine 5. That always gets people talking about graphics.
Definitely. And they're aiming wide with platforms, consoles, PC, and mobile, both iOS and Android. That's ambitious.
It really is. Plus, pre-registration is apparently already live, so maybe it's not that far off.
The setting sounds pretty unique, too. It's called Silvernia, described as this prosperous city, but with a Victorian look and feel.
Right, and the core idea is that everything is powered by this special element, silverium. Kind of a steampunk vibe, maybe?
Yeah, Victorian steampunk seems like a good description. It blends that historical aesthetic with, fantasy tech. Why do you think that combo is so popular lately?
Well, the Victorian era itself has so much drama, right? Class structures, early industrial stuff, a certain aesthetic, and then steampunk lets you add cool gadgets and airships without breaking the feel. It's familiar, but also new, a bit different from typical elves and dwarves, maybe.
Makes sense. And the player. You're a detective. Back in Silvernia, investigating crimes, uncovering mysteries.
And it sounds like there's plenty to investigate. The sources mention all these factions, big corporations, underground crime groups, royal types, even cultists, all after this silverium stuff.
Yeah, that sets up some immediate conflict, doesn't it? A good hook for the story.
Definitely. And gameplay-wise, what features are popping up across the board? Combat seems key.
Yep, real-time character switching is mentioned a lot. That suggests you might control a party, or at least swap characters mid-fight. Could be interesting strategically.
And QTEs, quick-time events.
Right, for combo attacks. Those little button pumps that pop up. Adds a bit of interaction, though. Not everyone loves them.
True. Then there's the world itself, Silvernia. Sounds like a proper city. Streets, dark alleys, places to investigate. The usual detective stuff.
And visually, everyone seems pretty taken with the character designs. They're described as anime-inspired, high detail. That's getting consistent praise.
Which is important in these kinds of games, right? People get attached to the characters.
Totally. It all ties into this storyline about investigation and the conflict over Silverium. Oh, and they mention characters having interesting backstories, too, so maybe some depth there.
And one source, Blog TTT website, I think, mentioned cross-platform play.
Yeah, the possibility of it, which, if they pull it off, is huge. Lets you play anywhere.
It also brings up technical questions, doesn't it? Making it work smoothly everywhere.
Exactly. We'll probably come back to that. But the initial pitch, visually impressive, story-driven, open-world RPG, cool setting, action combat, sounds good on paper.
So the announcement hits, trailers drop.
Yeah.
What's the immediate reaction? That Reddit thread on architecting you sent seems like ground zero for a lot of the chatter.
Yeah, and it seems... well, pretty positive overall. People are really digging that Victorian steampunk aesthetic.
That seemed to be a major hook. What else stood out?
The main character designs, both the male and female options, are getting thumbs up. People are saying they look stylish, which apparently feels kind of rare in gacha games, which we'll get to.
That's interesting. Players really want a protagonist they like the look of, especially if you're going to be playing them for hours.
And another big thing, the protagonist isn't silent. They have voice dialogue. That seems like a massive plus for a lot of commenters.
Yeah, helps with immersion, definitely.
Plus, the idea you might be able to switch between the male and female main character, that got people excited too. Someone said they liked both designs equally.
More customization, more connection. Makes sense.
And then the slightly funnier reactions. The trailer showed some creative horse riding, leading to comments about drift horses.
Drift horses? Okay.
Yeah. Someone even compared it jokingly, I think, to Red Dead Redemption 2. So, that's a thing. Those little quirks can get people talking.
Absolutely gives it personality.
But yeah, overall, first impressions seem strong. Graphics, art style, the characters all look good. People seem relieved the main character isn't like generic or just standing there.
Okay, so aesthetically, it's ticking boxes.
Mm.
What about the actual gameplay shown? Beyond the drifting horses.
Right. The trailer showed actual gameplay, exploration, running around the city, even rooftop stuff, and importantly, interacting with a cat. Always a win.
Never underestimate the power of petable animals in games. What else?
More fantasy elements, too, like a grappling hook used on a sky train, and those flying gliding horses were mentioned. So it's not just grounded detective work.
Leaning into the adventure side. And combat.
We saw parrying. Some Redditors were saying the timing window looked pretty generous, maybe forgiving.
That leads into the concerns, doesn't it? Performance?
Exactly.
Ma'am.
Multiple people on Reddit pointed out frame rate drops in the footage, especially during parries. That immediately raises flags about performance.
Particularly on mobile, I imagine, since that's one of the target platforms.
Yep. That's a big part of the discussion. Can the game actually look like the trailers and run well on a phone? People are bringing up comparisons to Infinite Nikki, worrying about potential downgrades.
It's the classic problem, isn't it? Balancing visual fidelity with performance across wildly different hardware. Mobile optimization is tough.
For sure. But on the plus side, people did seem impressed with the city details in the gameplay. The world itself looks good.
And back to the horses for a sec. That Gaikon Hub forum had a comment about needing special drifting horseshoes.
Haha, yeah, just little bits of community humor building up around it already.
It all adds to the buzz. Anything else notable from the gameplay clips?
Someone on Gaikon Hub noticed the music during a boss fight, Vivaldi's Storm. They seem to appreciate the choice.
Nice touch. Good music and sound design can make a huge difference.
Okay, but now, the big one. The question that keeps coming up, especially on Reddit,
What?
is it going to be a gacha game?
The monetization elephant in the room. What's the debate look like?
Well, you've got a chunk of people really hoping it's not gacha. They want a premium, buy-it-once kind of game. There's definitely some gacha fatigue out there.
Why do you think the fatigue is setting in?
I think it's a few things. The randomness, maybe. Feeling like you're gambling for characters. Concerns about pay to win. Or just spending too much.
Right. And the fear that the game design itself might get compromised.
Exactly. That's a big worry expressed in the threads that the gameplay or story might take a back seat to pushing character banners and making people spend money.
But there are counter-arguments too, right? Especially considering the market.
Yeah, people point out that gacha is just huge, especially in China and Southeast Asia, where a lot of these games come from. It's profitable, funds ongoing updates, and, free-to-play is dominant there, maybe partly because of piracy issues with paid games historically.
It's the established model for many mobile and cross-platform releases from that region.
And people are already comparing it to Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact. It fits that open-world gacha mold that's getting kind of crowded.
Which raises the question of market saturation. If it is gacha, how does it stand out?
Good question. Maybe the setting, the detective angle, the story. It'll need something unique beyond the core gacha loop, probably, especially since some of these games take ages to develop.
And did anyone find any actual clues about the model?
Well, one Redditor dug into the terms of service, found a clause about in-game advertising. Apparently that's pretty standard language for gacha games.
Okay. That does lean towards the gacha model being likely, doesn't it?
Seems that way, though some are still hoping. One user wished companies like Hoyaverse might try more buy-to-play stuff again, feeling gacha can hurt the game itself.
And the Black Myth Wukong example comes up. The big buy-to-play success from China.
Yep. Though, as you mentioned before we started, others argue that's maybe a special case because of the source material, the Journey to the West connection. Might not apply to every game.
So, still officially unconfirmed, but the signs and the community debate seem to be pointing towards gacha. It's definitely a major point of focus.
Let's shift a bit to the tech side then. We mentioned Unreal Engine 5.
Right, which sounds great for visuals, potentially amazing graphics,
But optimization is the flip side. Especially for that wide platform range, PC, console, and mobile. You sent stuff from PC sites and mobile communities, so this clearly matters to everyone.
and those Reddit threads show the concern. People are worried about mobile getting a significantly downgraded version compared to the trailers. Infinity Nikki keeps coming up as that cautionary tale.
Yeah, the game looks stunning on PC, then the mobile version has to make compromises, lower textures, fewer effects, maybe lower resolution just to run decently. It's a common trade-off.
Some people were hoping they might actually focus more on PC and console, maybe,
Hmm.
since there's arguably less direct competition there for this specific type of game.
Interesting thought. Could let them push the visuals harder without worrying quite as much about low-end phones.
But the core question hangs there. Can it really run well on mobile if the trailers are anything to go by? There's definitely some skepticism.
And it's not just performance. A few comments mentioned hoping the character models get refined a bit, worried about them looking slightly off, maybe hitting that uncanny valley thing.
So the tech is both a selling point and a point of anxiety. High ambition, high potential for problems if not handled carefully.
Definitely. Getting that smooth, quality experience everywhere is going to be a huge task for Silver Studio.
Okay, let's talk setting and story. What details did your sources pull out?
We're getting a clearer picture of Silvernia. The game starts in the third year of Queen Filiana's reign, and our character, the detective, is just returning after being away for 3 years. Apparently, some kind of catastrophe happened before they left.
And the city looks peaceful now, but
Uh,
obviously isn't.
Right. Underlying conspiracies, hidden stuff. Online Station called it the golden age of detectives because the justice system is maybe a bit shaky, politics are murky. Perfect setup for an investigator.
Sounds like it. And we got introductions to a few characters.
Yeah, glimpses. The detective that's us is described as rational, reliable, composed, efficient, and they have a personal motive, finding out what happened to a loved one in that past catastrophe.
Okay, classic detective motivation. Who else?
Then there's Maid Alf. She's quite something. Maid #49 from the Maid Institute of Miss Society and Services.
Okay.
She's described as naive but determined, joins up with the detective, but also has zero common sense, bad at housework, but carries a flamethrower.
A flamethrower. Okay,
Go.
that's unexpected. And a pure heart, apparently.
And a pure heart, and sees everything as new and wonderful. She sounds like quite the character. Maybe comic relief, but with firepower.
Could be a fun dynamic. Any others mentioned?
Bartender Argos also worked with this Mrs. organization. He's articulate, observant, ambitious, but maybe not taking the direct route to the top. Listens a lot, waits for the right moment.
Sounds like the information broker type, maybe.
Could be. And apparently, something the detective says, maybe while having a drink, triggers a memory for him. So connections there, too.
Interesting starting cast. Hints at some potentially complex relationships.
And the main story thread seems to be investigating crimes tied to that struggle between the factions over Silverium, uncovering secrets.
And we need to remember how central Silverium is. It's not just a plot device. It's the reason for Silvernia's prosperity. It's tech, why everyone wants control. Its discovery changed everything.
Right. It powers the city, drives innovation, attracts people, makes it valuable, makes it dangerous.
So yeah, Victorian city, magic power source, returning detective, conspiracies, factions, flamethrower maids. It's quite a mix.
It really is. Sounds like they've built a pretty detailed world, potentially very engaging.
Yeah, that blend of the familiar historical look with the fantasy tech wrapped in a detective story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a strong hook.
Okay, let's wrap this up. We've covered a lot from the sources you sent. Final thoughts on Silver Palace based on this deep dive?
Well, for me, it's really about the contrast, isn't it? On one hand, you've got this incredibly promising setup. Gorgeous visuals thanks to UE5, that unique Victorian fantasy detective thing, potentially cool characters and story, loads of ambition.
But on the other hand,
You got these big question marks.
yeah.
Is it gacha? How will that affect the game? And can it actually run well on all the platforms they're promising, especially mobile?
Yeah.
So it's like excitement mixed with definite caution.
Yeah, totally agree. The aha moments are there. The drift horse is definitely memorable. But also that cool setting blend, the stark gap between the slick trailers and the mobile performance worries, and just how much that gotcha question dominates the conversation. It really shows what players are focused on right now.
And thinking about you, the listener, who sent all this in, what jumped out most at you? Was it the detective gameplay that grabbed you, the world of Silvernia, the story potential? Or are you more caught up in those concerns about monetization and performance?
Which leads us perfectly to that final thought to chew on. With all the hype and the clear technical goals for Silver Palace, what do you think will be the biggest factor deciding if it sinks or swims long term? Will it be purely down to how fun the gameplay is, how deep the story goes?
Or will it be about accessibility? Can everyone play it smoothly? Or maybe, if it is gacha, how fair and engaging that system feels. What's the make-or-break element you're most curious about now after digging into all this early info?
Definitely a lot to think about. We'll have to keep an eye on this one.